Hey, drawing. Let's take a look at the assignment for this week. So, what you're doing this week is you're going to be experimenting with compositional balance, figure ground, and mark making. You're going to be making kind of like a little chart. Well, it's going to be, a full size 18 by 24 inch chart that looks like this. But you're going to be experimenting with, excuse me, ways to create um, figure ground and the illusion of 3D space on a two-dimensional picture plane. So the first thing I want you guys to do is set up your page like this. Your 18 by 24 inch page should be set up like this. These boxes are 6 inches each. So just you can use one of those like quilting rulers. Those are great if you're a quilter and you have, or if you have that rule, have a quilting ruler and it's 6 inches wide. You can just use that and zip right down the edge of the page, or you can just use a ruler. It kind of helps to use like a T-square to keep them nice and even. But you're going to be breaking up your page just like this. Use a pencil, draw the lines, and you don't have to outline the lines when you're done. Just use a pencil and then just do the drawings, and the outlines will kind of automatically appear. So what I want you to pay attention to is, let's see if I have all my files in here. So the lesson is a little bit longer than I think it's a little bit longer than some of the other lessons, but I want you to pay very close attention to, I'm just noticing that I did not put in this handout for you that I have to do. If I don't put the handout, please remind me, because sometimes I forget. There's a lot of working parts in this online class. So let's see if I can find it. Let me pause my Zoom for a second. Okay, guys, sorry, I paused the video and completely lost my place, but the handout that I was looking for, which I found, is this one, and let's jump back to this assignment. So I want you guys to pay attention to figure and ground. You're going to be creating the illusion of 3D space on a two-dimensional picture plane. So it explains, make sure you read the lesson plan carefully. This is an image, and it just talks about the illusion. It talks about how drawing is actually an illusion of what you see, because a drawing is a drawing and a pipe is a pipe, right? So when you think of a pipe, it's like smooth, it's like shiny, it probably smells like tobacco. But when you draw the pipe, it actually becomes something a lot different than the actual pipe itself. So the point is that drawings are really an illusion of what you see. You're creating this illusion, and you're kind of trying to tell the viewer that you're creating this illusion for. You're trying to convince them of what, of believing what you were looking at when you were doing the drawing. So for this assignment, what you're doing is you are creating a chart. It's like a little chart, and you're going to be experimenting with figure and ground. You're only going to use, for this drawing, you're only going to use very, very basic shapes, because I don't want you to get bogged down with thinking about what this mason glass looks like, what a kettle looks like, what this wine bottle looks like. I want you to use the most basic of shapes, and I want you to create a very clear figure ground relationship. So what is in front of and what is in back? And let's see if I can toggle to my handout here. The way that you do this, and again, you're going to hear me repeating this over and over and over again, especially when we get to the still life geometric shapes. You're going to hear me saying this over and over and over again. Overlapping position and size of object and shape in the picture plane. So it's overlapping, position, and size. Position of shape and size of shape. When you overlap, so if we look at this handout, the red boat is in front of the green boat and the blue boat. We know because this red boat overlaps those two boats. Now, the red boat is also, and we're saying position of shape or object, it's also lower in the picture plane. So anything lower in the picture plane looks closer to us. Higher up is going to be smaller, so size. The red boat is big, and this this boat off into the distance is a lot smaller. It's also got atmospheric perspective. We're not really going to be dealing with that too much online, but atmospheric perspective is basically when you paint something or you draw something with less detail to indicate that the atmosphere, the gases in the atmosphere kind of distort your vision because it's farther away, right? Not distort your vision, but you just don't see it as in as much focus as you would for something that would be close up. So position of objects, so the boat is lower and that is higher. So anything lower in the picture plane, bigger, and anything that overlaps is going to look in front of, and anything that is smaller, higher up, and is not overlapped and or looks like it is overlapped by something in front of it, such as the green or the blue boats, are going to look farther away. So here's an example. Well, let's go to these. So these are the examples that I have included. Let's see, in your, where is it? In your, here, these are these examples. So let me just get my, here we go. So if you look at the relationships between these objects, they are pretty clear. This one is not as clear. I'm looking at this one right here, because this one, I'm trying to circle it with my mouse. Hopefully you guys can see that. What happens is that there's a baseline here, right? I call it a baseline because I don't know what else to call it. But if you took a ruler and you were to draw it right here, basically you don't need this bottom part of the composition. You want to have something like this, where the cone is like clearly coming down into the picture plane, and it's very clearly overlapping this cube or box or rectangular prism. This becomes a little flatter because we can't tell which of these is in front. And I have this little diagram here, where to go, that I made for you guys, and this explains what's going on here. So just read all of this, read all the material, it'll make sense to you. This is, again, like better, but they can do even more. I want you to pay attention to the entire picture plane because you're also dealing with compositional balance. I want you to pay attention to the entire picture plane. So like here, what happens here? What happens here? What happens here? What happens out here? What happens out here? So start with that. Start with approaching your composition. Approaching your composition, and thinking about how you're going to balance it. Where's that other file that I wanted to show you? This is not really quite, it's not really quite achieving what you're trying to achieve. You really want to create, a really balanced composition. Think about negative shapes. What happens to the negative shapes in the background when you place these objects? Like this right here, like this whole thing, this is the drawing right here. That's the drawing. Don't forget about the edges of the composition, because that's what happens when people, they kind of like, they get afraid of the edges of the composition, and they want to put everything in the middle, and they want to make everything kind of small. They want to draw everything kind of like small. So when you are, when you are drawing these, make them, make your forms kind of big in relation to the picture plane. When I say picture plane, I mean the edges of your page. So these are little sketches, but yours are going to be, when you do the still lives, you're going to have to understand this, because, these are kind of like practice for your still life exercises. Use what you know about perspective now that you guys have done perspective, and avoid, see if I can find this file. Avoid coincidental edges. You're going to hear me say this a lot too. This is a coincidental edge. We don't know what's happening here. It kind of looks like the cone is in front of the sphere because it's lower in the picture plane. But if that sphere was, if the baseline here was the same, we would not know which one was in front. It kind of overlaps, but it doesn't really overlap. So you want a clear, like this relationship is much clearer. I'm so happy that this person decided to do these two drawings next to each other. This relationship is much more clear than this relationship. So you want clear overlapping. Make things that are closer to you bigger and lower in the picture plane, and things that are farther away smaller and higher up, and make sure that things that are also farther away are overlapped by the things that are in front of them. And pay attention to the entire picture plane, because there's a lot of like, unused space, unaddressed. I don't want to say unused, but unaddressed space. What happens in all this other space here? This is also a coincidence of edge. We have no idea what's going on between this sphere and this cylinder here, and this cone and this cylinder. We understand because the ball and the cone are lower down than the sphere and then the cylinder, but that's the only hint that we're given. And if we were going to look at this like upside down, it's like, who knows what we would see, because once you turn an image upside down, it becomes like not the image. So be careful with that. What I also want to tell you, what is also part of this assignment, is that you have to experiment with mark making. So once you have your forms, once you have those gestural drawings, the initial gestural like layout. Did I put an image of that in here? I think I did. Okay, so what you're doing is you're going for gesture, right? I think I did put this image in another. Yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I did. You're going to block out the composition. If you look at this composition, it's balanced. All parts of the composition are addressed. You're going to block out the entire composition very lightly using gestural lines. For these sketches, these little drawings. And then once you have the composition and the figure ground resolved, you're going to go back in with mark making. Where's the chart? Here's the chart. Here's the little chart. And then you're going to kind of like create these, create some different kinds of mark making on top of these. So this is, it's a little bit of an involved assignment, so make sure you give yourself enough time to get this done. Don't just start this on Saturday night unless you have all of Sunday to work on this, because it's due on Sunday. Start ahead of time. Don't leave it for last minute. Make sure you put, get all the points of the rubric in there. Is it finished? Is it complete? Is it clean? Is the photo good? Do you have a pencil in there? All that stuff. And then for this, I'm really looking for you to, strike a compositional balance. I'm really looking for you to establish figure and ground. Tell me what's in front, what's in back. And I want you to also experiment with mark making. And you can experiment with different mediums you can experiment with. I don't, you should start the drawings. You should do I would recommend doing all 12 drawings first, blocking everything in, because that's the first part, thinking about compositional balance using a 6B pencil or some sort of a pencil. So you have everything there. And then once you're done, you can go back in and start filling in each of the drawings using your mark making. I'm not asking you to, observe anything for these. If you have a cone and a cylinder in a box, it would be good to use it, as reference. I'm at the point where I'm confident that I could draw these without a reference, but if you need a reference, use a reference. And really what I'm looking for you to do is balance the composition, establish what is in front of and what is in back, and experiment with mark making. So that is the objective for this assignment. You need to do 12 drawings, but they're 6 inches each. So there's 12 small 6-inch drawings, and that for the entire assignment. It's not 2. You're only doing 1. I just put 2 here, for example. So I am going to stop here. Oh, I was going to say, again, I want you to experiment with your materials. You can use pen, you can use charcoal, you can use India ink, you can use pencil. Don't use color, just do black and white. But you should be experimenting with all sorts of media. Label, if you can see, label the media that you used. And then I also want you to label what kind of mark making you're using. So I think I put this one. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, so in this example, this is not the one, this is only the one with the materials, but I also want you to use, I want you to tell me what kind of mark making you're using. And you can keep this as like a little, a cheat sheet for yourself. And it actually, you can fold it up. It folds up really nicely because it's nice and, even. So you can make this compact if you want it to be. So I'm going to stop here. If you have questions, send me an email and I will see you on Canvas.